All right, I think, yeah, let's get started. Okay, good morning, everyone. Welcome to 2023 MedTech Innovator Asia Pacific Korea Info Session. And my name is Joanne Lee. I am a CEO of MediHeroes. I'm very glad to co-host MedTech Innovator Asia Pacific Korea Information Session again with a MedTech Innovator. Before I introduce the Meta Innovator, as well as panelists from Korea, I'd like to invite the Miss Ashley Ju, Digital Marketing Manager from MediHeroes, to share with you a bit of a housekeeping rules for today's session. Ashley, over to you.
Thank you, Joanne. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the MedTech Innovator Asia Pacific 2023 Korea Info Session. Before the session gets started, I'd like to share about the housekeeping rules for this session with all of you. First of all, please keep your name/company name in English. The second, for the simultaneous interpretation function, in the bottom of your Zoom, you can find the interpretation function. For all the guests, please click the language that you would like to hear. And to hear the interpreted language only, please click mute original audio. For all the panelists, please stay in the main audio. In the live Q&A session will be held at the end of the event for 10 to 15 minutes. Please feel free to post the questions in the chat box in the middle of the session if you have any inquiries. During the session, please raise a hand to ask questions or post them in the chat box. Questions can be posted or asked either in English or Korean. Thank you. Over to you, Joanne.
Thank you, Ashley. So as MediHeroes, we have invited a simultaneous translator in Korean English, as Miss Ashley mentioned, that please feel free to post questions in the chat box, and they will provide translations in the respective language. And MediHeroes, again, very happy to co-host this Korean information session. And last year we held a session. We hosted a session with the MedTech Innovator. MedTech Innovator is the largest accelerator in the MedTech industry. And today, Mr. Frederick Nyberg, MedTech Innovator APAC head, will MC the session. And also, we'd like to thank Mr. Kenny Nam from Weisen, as well as Mr. Pyeongkyu Kim from New Ein. They are the finalists from 2022 program, and that they will share with you their experience and the benefits for the finalists as well as winners. Then let me introduce Mr. Frederick Nyberg. Over to you, Frederick.
Thank you so much, Joanne, and a very good morning, everyone. And thank you to MediHeroes and Joanne and your team for co-hosting this and organizing it with us. It's great to be here, back talking to the Korean community. We ran one of these sessions a year ago, and I think as a result of that, we had quite a good number of Korean applicants to the MedTech Innovator Asia Pacific program, and I'll comment on that in a moment as I go through my slides. But you will see that we had out of the 20 companies in our 2022 accelerator cohort, we had as many as 5 from Korea, which is great. So we want to keep that up. We want to continue to have good quality, innovative medical technology companies applying from Korea, which is why we're hosting this information session. So do feel free to queue up your questions. We are thrilled to have both PK Kim here and Kenny Nam from Weisen, and we'll get them to introduce themselves a little bit later, talk about their companies, and about their role in the MedTech Innovator program. So let me begin by sharing my screen, and I'll provide a brief overview of MedTech Innovator Asia Pacific and what the program encompasses. There are a few changes from last year to this year, and I'll speak to those as well. So again, Warm welcome, everyone. Delighted to have you with us. These are some of the photographs from our grand finals in Singapore in September 2022. And we'll talk more about that in a moment. MedTech Innovator, as Joanne mentioned, is the world's largest accelerator for traditional medical devices, medical diagnostics, in vitro diagnostics, as well as digital health. We're a non-profit organization. We're headquartered in Los Angeles, and our Asia Pacific headquarter, of course, is in Singapore, where I'm based with my colleague Sakina. Now, as an incubator, as an accelerator, an accelerator program, we're entirely industry-led. So what does that mean? It means that we are partnering with a number of large corporates, and you'll see some of their logos here at the bottom of the screen. So these are organizations that provide not only financial support for the program, but maybe even more importantly, they provide mentorship and judging guidance to the companies as they go through the program. So as we've said, we are the #1 accelerator in the world, and you'll see here on the horizontal bar graph on the right, that as you compare MedTech Innovator to some of these accelerators you're probably not familiar with, but some of them you may have seen, like Y Combinator, Plug and Play, and others. In terms of the number of alumni companies that have gone through the program, we are by far the largest globally. So we have currently 509 alumni companies that have gone through the full accelerator program, and that's both our US program as well as our Asia Pacific program. We have more than 500 reviewers, judges, and mentors globally that work on evaluating and reviewing the applications, and they also serve as judges on our panels as we invite companies to pitch. We're in our 10th year of operations in the US and Europe, and we are in our 5th year of operation in Asia Pacific. The accelerator, we'll come to that in a moment, is a 4-month virtual program, and we cover seed stage up to Series C, typically, of startup companies. So we work very closely with a number of early stage incubators, and typically our applicants are, if you like, the graduates of some of those incubators. So they will typically go through an incubator first, very often, and then they will apply to MedTech Innovator. So we cover companies that are at a seed stage all the way up to Series C. In some cases, companies may have raised already $15–20 million, and maybe their prize money that we offer in our program is not so relevant. But we have, for example, companies out of China, out of Korea, and elsewhere that may already have raised $20–30 million and have very good domestic sales, but these companies may not know how to scale internationally. They may not have the networks globally. And that's the key role of the MedTech Innovator program, is to provide that network and that ecosystem and some of those introductions, whether they're in other parts of Asia Pacific, in Australia, in Singapore, in Japan, or in the US or in Europe. So we'll come to that a little bit later on as well. I wanted to mention as well, you'll see some of the statistics here at the bottom of the screen. Our 509 alumni companies have gone on to raise $6 billion in follow-on equity funding, which is quite impressive. We've had 32 acquisitions. In fact, the last acquisition was just last week. One of our US alumni companies was acquired by Zimmer Biomet for close to $300 million. So what are the benefits then of being part of the MedTech Innovator program? Well, the accelerator provides a number of things, and we'll talk about these in a little bit more detail. One is an educational curriculum. So at the beginning of the accelerator, we will ask our participating companies and participating startups what they are particularly interested in, and we will then tailor a series of webinars with experts and panels to their particular needs. So we have an educational curriculum with a 10-week webinar series. We will also organize corporate mentorship, and you saw some of the logos of our corporate partners like Johnson & Johnson, Siemens Healthineers, Olympus, Nipro, Align Technology, and others. And they will provide, they will make available senior level executives, typically at senior director and VP level, to provide coaching and mentorship to the participating startups. We also provide resources and of course, not direct funding, but we do provide prize money at the end of the competition, and we provide, maybe more importantly, introductions to investors and corporate business development representatives. The community, of course, is also critical here, and as I mentioned earlier, that's why a lot of larger or later stage startups want to be part of the program, because they they need help to build their international community network. And we're taking additional steps this year to make that even more powerful and impactful, and I'll come to that in a second. Finally, and this is very important, in the blue box here in the lower right-hand side, we do not take any equity in your company. So there is no need for you to be diluted by being part of the program. There is no participation fee, so we don't charge any money for anyone to be part of the program. You simply apply, and you will then your application will be reviewed, and you may or may not then get selected to be part of the program. We do not care where you are based geographically. We welcome companies, of course, from Korea and from other parts of Asia Pacific, but as you will see later, we have companies in the Asia Pacific program that are not all based here in the region. Some are based in the US, some are based in Europe, and that doesn't really matter. We are interested in finding the most innovative technologies and the best possible innovations, and our job is to help you bring those innovations to patients. So broadly speaking, this is how the program runs. We are now open for applications. This is the Asia Pacific program, and it's broadly aligned with our US program as well. So we are now open until the end of January for applications, and we'll give you the details of how to apply in just a moment. Out of the 400 to 500 applications that we usually receive in Asia Pacific, we will select, together with our corporate partners, the 50 or 60 best companies that will get invited to pitch. So this is stage number one. And these pitch events typically are either online or in person. In 2022, last year, all of them were online, of course, because of COVID. This year, we will host one pitch event in person in Singapore in March. The rest of the online events will most likely be online. So you can dial in from, certainly dial in from Korea, dial in from anywhere you may be based. So that typically takes place from March through to May. We will then select, out of the companies that have pitched, the 20 best companies to join the accelerator. And the accelerator will run for 3 to 4 months. And out of the 20 accelerator companies, we will select 4 or 5 finalists that will compete for the grand prize. All 20 accelerator companies will get invited to Singapore to join the Asia Pacific MedTech Forum conference at the end of September. I believe this year it will be on the 26th of September here in Singapore. And that we'll talk a bit more about that. You'll hear from PK and Kenny in a moment, their experience of coming to Singapore and being part of that. But essentially, you'll have an opportunity to network with senior level executives from the corporate side, as well as investors and the investor community. There will be one grand prize winner, and that company will walk away with $175,000 US. And as I mentioned earlier, it is non-dilutive, so we don't expect any equity. It's not a grant; you don't have to repay the money, so that is for the winner. There are multiple other awards as well. We give away, for example, a 12-month residency at Johnson & Johnson J-Labs. There are design and development awards and other prizes. This is just to give you a flavor of the types of companies that were part of our accelerator. This is now the 2022 cohort. So you will see, in fact, we have 5 companies here from Korea, including, of course, Weisen and Yuan, who you'll hear from in a moment. But we have companies here from Singapore, from New Zealand, from India, from UK, from US, from Australia, from China. So it's a very interesting geographical mix of companies. They also cover a range of innovations and technologies. And these companies are also at very different stages in terms of development. Some may be early stage, some may be much later stage. That doesn't really make a big difference, or if you're early stage or if you're very late stage, does not affect your chances of being selected for the accelerator. Just a reminder that the MedTech Innovator Asia Pacific program is part of 3 separate programs that we run globally. We run the main MedTech Innovator US and European program in the US, of course, in parallel. That's a separate application. You are welcome to apply to the US program as well, if you so wish. I can tell you that there is a lot more competition because we have typically about 1,500 applicants every year to the US program. So it's a lot more difficult to get selected. Typically, companies that are headquartered in Asia Pacific will apply to the MedTech Innovator Asia Pacific program. In 2021, we also launched a new program called the BioTools Innovator Program. So that's for companies that are in the area of life science tools. We do not cover biotech or pharma, but we do cover life science tools. For now, the BioTools Innovator Program is available to our US applicants. So again, these are the approximate dates. Currently, we're open for applicants. January to February is when we will review those applications. March to May is when we will invite startups to pitch either online or in person. June is when we are now introducing something quite new for 2023. We are very excited to invite all of our accelerator companies in 2023 to join and to kick off the accelerator at the MedTech Innovator Summit in San Francisco on the 14th to 16th of June. So this is something that we have been running for our US program, and for the first time in 2023, we will invite our accelerator participants in Asia Pacific to join this program in San Francisco as well. We will also invite some of our alumni companies, so certainly we will extend an invitation both to Weisen and to Nguyen to join us if you are available to join us in San Francisco. July to September is then when we run the accelerator for the 20 startups, and 26th of September is when we do the showcase in Singapore and the grand finals at the Asia Pacific MedTech Forum. So just to give you a flavor of what the online pitch events look like, as I mentioned, some of them are in person, most of them will be still virtual. And these are some of the photographs from our virtual online pitch events in 2022. I should mention the evaluation criteria for our applicants. I will not go through this in detail, but we have a fairly sophisticated online evaluation model that is used by our reviewers and our corporates to assess and evaluate the companies that apply. We look across the dimensions of value, execution, and momentum. We look at things like product and value proposition. We look at the strength of your team. We look at your momentum in terms of reaching milestones and any customer validation that you may have, and so on. And you'll find this information on our application website as well. So these are some of the photographs from the 2022 MedTech Innovator Summit in San Francisco, which was in person for the first time since before the pandemic. And again, it will be running in San Francisco 14th to 16th of June in 2023. The accelerator, in addition to corporate mentorship, as I mentioned earlier, will also run informational educational webinars, and we do these every week with invited experts covering a range of topics. These are some examples of the topics that we cover. We can talk about health economics and reimbursement, regulatory strategy, manufacturing and supply chain, venture capital, and how to raise money from investors in Asia Pacific and in the US. We talk about commercialization and building distribution channels. We talk about attracting talent and many other topics. So this again is just to give you a flavor of some of those topics. Final slide here is just again to show you some of the photographs taken from the grand finals in Singapore in 2022. We had judges on stage, as you can see here in the upper left-hand corner, from Johnson & Johnson, Align Technology, Siemens Healthineers, and Becton Dickinson, and our winners on the bottom slide here, including, of course, Kenny here from Waysen. As well as I believe PK is here from New Wine as well. We have one additional change this year, or one additional program that I wanted to make you aware of. We have a dedicated Olympus Innovation Program with a separate set of pitch events and an additional $75,000 that you can win. You can choose either to join the Olympus Innovation Program, or you can choose to apply for the MedTech Innovator Asia Pacific program, as well as the Olympus program. You can apply for both. This is a new program supported by Olympus, where they are looking specifically for innovations in areas that are focused on cancers and diseases of the stomach, colon, and lungs, including the urology space. They're interested in smart endoscopy. They're interested in robotics, sensing and monitoring and navigation technologies. They're looking at novel devices and procedural solutions that could replace current treatments. They're looking at ethical AI, next generation automated documentation, and smart gastro clinics and remote patient monitoring. This is a new program. If you are a past applicant of MedTech Innovator Asia Pacific, you are welcome to apply to this program in 2023. If you have never applied to MedTech Innovator in the past, I would encourage you to apply to MedTech Innovator Asia Pacific. And you can apply if you have a product that and a solution in any of these areas. You can also apply for the Olympus Innovation Program without having to resubmit your application. So when you come to the completing the application, you will see that there is a simple button that you click, which will give you the option to apply to the Olympus Innovation Program, and automatically your application will go to both the Olympus Innovation Program as well as to the main MedTech Innovator Asia Pacific program. So that's something new for 2023, and I encourage you, if you're in this space, do consider applying for that as well. It should be no additional effort on your part if you're already applying for the main program. So before we get into the discussions now with our guests, let me just tell everyone that this is the QR code and the page that you need to go to make the application. You can just scan the QR code and you will go to the MedTech Innovator Asia application page. You scroll to the bottom of the page and you will just need to click on the register button and follow the instructions. If you have any problems at all or any questions on that, just write to us at hello@medtechinnovator.asia. I will show this again at the end of the program. What I'd like to do now is to introduce our guests. Enough talking from me. I'm very pleased to introduce Kenny Nam, founder and CEO of Waysen. Waysen was not only in our 2022 accelerator cohort, but also in our final four, and he'll tell you a little bit about himself and about his company in just a moment. I'm also very pleased to have PK Kim here, from CEO from Newine, and again, his company was part of the accelerator cohort in 2022, and I'll invite him in a moment to introduce himself as well as his company, and then we'll talk a little bit about their experience going through the MedTech Innovator program. So maybe Kenny, I will start with you. If you can perhaps, I'll stop sharing my screen. If you can perhaps introduce yourself and your company very briefly, that would be great.
Sure. Good morning. Happy New Year, everyone. It's good to see you guys all, Sakina and Frederick. Thank you very much for your introduction. So my name is Kenny Nam, working for Waysen as a general manager for global sales, and it's a big pleasure to be part of this Korea information session, and thanks for the invitation. Yeah, and we've been enjoying to be part of this MedTech Innovator program still, and it's a great chance to talk to a lot of different people in the medical and healthcare industry, and a little bit just a little bit background on Waysen. So we are basically a MedTech company that provides the AI-based software that assists the doctors in detecting lesions in the stomach and the colon in real time during a gastroscopy and colonoscopy by providing our very advanced AI technology as second observer. So there was a clear need to improve the lesion polyp detection rate. So our company Waysen developed very advanced technology for the market needs.
Great, thank you so much, Kenny. We'll come back to you in a moment.
Sure.
PK, good to see you again. Welcome. Tell us a bit about yourself and your company.
Hi all. From Newine. We've been around for about 5 years now, starting from 2017 with 4 co-founders that have some of the experiences in both researching and developing medical devices. We currently utilize electrical stimulation as a modality to induce specific biological functions for treating chronic diseases. So that's actually one of the challenges that we've been facing for 5 years. Typically, as a startup, you mainly focus on one pipeline, but we have 8 different indications to deal with, and we developed 6 different devices for treatment. And currently, we are in the stage of clinical development, clinical validation, and what that means is you need a large fund. And although Korea has a wonderful infrastructure, we have to also look into the opportunities elsewhere as well. So participating in this MedTech Innovators program was quite resourceful in terms of understanding what the needs are globally and how we can serve and also acquire what we need. Yeah.
Great. Thank you. Thank you very much for that. Let me ask you both very briefly before we go into the accelerator and the visit to Singapore. What was your experience of the first online pitch? Because you were both invited to do the online pitch. I think it was sometime in March, April, maybe May. And where you had to pitch in front of a group of judges, you had to pitch multiple times. Did you get some useful feedback from those sessions? And maybe PK, I'll start with you. PK, sorry, what was your experience from the online pitch event initially?
It was a quite new experience for us. Typically, it's well, despite the COVID, we've been all used to offline events, participating in both networking face to face. So this was all new to us. But in terms of this event, end of the day, we are able to get onto the next round, and all the feedbacks that we received were quite relevant, and they were reflected enough to all the mentors and the participants were quite amazed with so much improvements that we had in between the short time that we had. So overall, it was despite the internet connection sometimes slow us down, like right now, but it was effective and forceful. Yeah.
Great, thank you. And Kenny, how was the experience for Wei-Sun?
Yeah, I remember clearly that the first pitch that you mentioned, and that the first pitch that I did was back in May, and that was my, the first trip, after the pandemic.
Right.
So I remember that it was, one day right after I landed in Hanoi, Vietnam. So I did that, my first pitch at my hotel. And my CEO was sitting right next to me, and so yeah, I think I enjoyed the my presentation in front of all the judges, and luckily they asked me the questions that I wanted to get from them. So I think it was and with that experience, that helped me to do more pitches, in Singapore in September. So I think that was a great experience. Yes.
Good, thanks. So let's move on to the accelerator. So both of you pitched, you got the feedback from the judges. And I think June was probably the end of June was maybe the time when we announced who the selected companies would be for the accelerator, and we issued a press release that went out globally as well in conjunction with that. So Kenny, again, I'll stay with you. What was your overall experience of the accelerator, both maybe looking at the webinars and the content that was provided through the weekly webinars, as well as the mentorship? I think you were mentored by Johnson & Johnson, if I'm not mistaken. How was that experience?
Correct. Yes, it was Johnson & Johnson, and thank you for that. And I was really surprised, personally, that like you guys, from Medtech Innovator, made a quick arrangement. So I, with Johnson & Johnson. So they just put me in contact with the right person that we could get help. And even if they are not in the exact same areas, as us, but since they are one of the multinational companies in the world, So they know like how to, tackle the market, and, they know how to reach out to people. So they, they really gave us the, the broader, the direction or vision of, where we're going, even if they are not in the same area. So, but like, honestly, yeah, we couldn't get like many calls because, due to my like the frequent travels, but we are still in contact with them, and
Good.
they're still, helping us on the anything that we want. So
excellent. I think that's a really good point, because what we find very often is the relationships that you develop, maybe with a mentor, maybe with companies that in corporates that you maybe meet in Singapore, are relationships that you can keep, of course, and that you will
correct.
retain over a longer period of time, which can be very helpful. PK, let me turn to you. What was your experience during the accelerator? I believe you were mentored by Cambridge Consultants, if I'm not mistaken, and your views on some of the educational webinars and the mentorship program. I think you may be on mute, PK. You're on mute. Sorry.
So
thanks.
Resources provided with series of seminars and mentorship were extremely relevant to the medtech startups, despite what stages of R&D you are in, and despite the locations of operation, basically. So with that said, additionally, I think it's very important for the companies interested in expanding to the overseas from Korea. There are large medtech companies like J&J and Siemens to just meet, just for the sake of occasion, and speak about your technology and receive some coaching. And then, as you mentioned, there are also consulting firms advising you with ways to expand and dealing with some of the regulations from different regions all around the world, and that particular areas of the world you are interested in. All the regular meetups that we had online, they are essential for us to really understand the basic atmosphere of how the startup scene is like in, let's say, in Singapore, and some of the venture capital funds available in not just in Asia Pacific, but a lot of just Cambridge Consulting. They are a global firm, so they have offices in Japan. We understand how the fundings operate in Japan, and then in England and Australia as well. So this has been very, let's say, effective way of sort of feeling some of the country's infrastructure is like, so without actually going there in person. So yeah.
Great, thanks for that. And then, of course, after the accelerator, which was virtual, all of our accelerator cohort companies were then invited to Singapore end of September of last year, and this was the first time that that conference was held in person after the pandemic. So we were all excited to meet in person and get together. And both Wei-Sen and Yuan were both well represented in Singapore for the MedTech Innovator Showcase, where all of you have an opportunity to present, and for the grand final. So Kenny, share a little bit about your experience, both during the Singapore showcases as well as the finals.
It was definitely an honor, to do for me to do like 2 pitches, one showcase, and luckily we were selected as one of the top 4 finalists. So I was able to do on the stage for the grand final. And because of that, we were able to, connect with one of the largest, the medical companies in the world. So you're still discussing, with them. So we've got a great chance, out of that. So, and, just like, as a startup company, just like us, I think it's really a great chance to get exposure, in the market. That's the key point, for, participating in this MedTech Innovator, the program. So that's one thing. And then I also want to mention about the, networking, this social night. And I think everybody, like, participating in that event, must go there. It's a great night. It's a great opportunity to be, able to meet up like senior level, people there. So we actually met them at the, the social night. So it was a great opportunity for us.
Thanks.
Sure.
Yeah, no, that's great. In fact, I remember on the because we do have some social networking evenings as well. I remember that first evening, and this is something for people who are dialing in here on the on this info session, maybe to take note of that. The level of seniority amongst the corporate participants at that conference is very, very high. So I was having a drink with in fact, with another of our Korean startups in the accelerator, and we were having a drink, and on part of that conversation over a drink was the President Asia Pacific from Siemens Healthineers and the President Asia Pacific from Terumo, and the 4 of us were just having a casual conversation. So that's the level of senior executives that you have the opportunity to meet in Singapore. And PK, what was your experience? Hopefully you had the chance to do some good networking in Singapore as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes doing this online sessions and pitching, there are people that you see them on the screen, but you just can't reach out to them. So that social night in particular was a great chance to meet. But not only that, the whole event, and we are able to have a booth along with the other startups to give a round of showcase of products that we've been researching and developing, sharing the some of our data were quite valuable, more or less. There are, as you mentioned, some of the attendees to the event were senior level executives of different large corporate firms that yeah, just to let them hear about what you've done for past 5 years as a startup. It's a very exciting time. And additionally, that type of meeting just it just doesn't go away, but it sticks around. And we are able to keep up the conversations with executives and directors for past 3 months, and it's been it's getting somewhere, hopefully.
Excellent.
But yeah, end of the day, it's been really good getting that exposure, getting that attention about who we are and what we do and what we would like to achieve. It's been a great opportunity. Yeah, and additionally, yeah, I just met Paul just last week in JPM Healthcare.
Oh, you met
Week.
him in JP Morgan. There you go. Good,
Yeah.
good.
So with that said, I also met with Paul. Just brought in a whole bunch of people. You gotta meet New Eye. You gotta meet these folks. They're people who are interested in this technology. Maybe they'd be open to investment. Sort of, it unlocks another series of opportunities, I think, that makes it more exciting and valuable at the same time.
Yeah, that's a great point. And although the accelerator, of course, comes to an end, and the grand final sort of marks the end of the program, the reality is that we have a very active alumni network, and you are always welcome to reach out. So our alumni companies can reach out to me or to Paul or to anyone in the MedTech Innovator organization and ask for guidance, for help, for introductions. And certainly when we bump into one another at conferences, we are more than happy to provide those introductions. I'm conscious of time. Maybe before we move to the Q&A, a last question I wanted to ask both Kenny and PK, and I'll start with Kenny. What are some of the tips and advice you would give to applicants or potential future applicants, companies in Korea that are now thinking about, should I apply, should I not apply, is it worth my time? What tips would you give them?
Yeah, for those applicants or for those who are thinking about applying for this program, I would suggest just to be proactive, and and that's what we did. And I would just suggest apply. Don't overthink too much. And we never imagined that we'll be one of the top 4 finalists on the stage. We never imagined that. And but I think and you just focus on which area like you want to go for, and that you're focusing on, and what kind of value you want to create. So I think you just need to be creative and just proactive, and just talk to people like Frederick or Paul or Sakina, and that you've been very helpful for us, and very responsive. So just proactive to talk to the people.
Thanks. That's great advice, Kenny. Appreciate that. And PK, some of your tips and advice for possible applicants?
Yeah, I can't agree more with what Kenny just said. But additionally, I think the applicants should think more globally. This is a great opportunity to sort of break out of the because we are speaking to mostly Korean companies, I guess. So we mainly think about the domestic market and how we can get the procedures done through the Korean Ministry of Food and Drug Safety. But this end of the day, you are trying this out to get the more global attention and recognition, and hopefully expand to different countries' markets. So this is a great opportunity for you to be imaginative and think about what you would like to achieve in different regions around the world, and also and with that action, that would sort of demonstrate how urgent you are in terms of and sincere with sort of interesting global expansion. So I think my advices to think globally. Yeah.
Great point. Thank you so much for that, and thank you both for joining us this morning. Do stay on for the next few minutes because there may be questions that I'll turn to either of you. Can I ask you, both Kenny and PK, if any of our attendees would like to contact you? Is it okay if they find you on LinkedIn and drop you a message? If that might be the easiest way to reach out to you. Again, really appreciate your time, and it's great to have you part of the program, and we will certainly keep in touch. So what I'd like to do now is to, for the remaining 10 minutes or so, to switch to Q&A. We have already a few questions, and I believe if there are anyone in the audience who would like to ask the question live, you are very welcome to do that. Otherwise, I will start to tackle some of the questions here that have been sent to me via the chat. And if there are other questions as well, just feel free to interrupt me. So the first question here is, can the applicant apply both for the US and for the Asia Pacific program? The answer is yes, you can, but you will only be selected for one. So you will not be, if you apply to both programs, you will either, and you get selected to pitch, you will only be selected to one of the two programs. But you can apply to both. I believe you may have to fill in the application twice because they are two separate programs. Generally speaking, if, as I mentioned, if you are located in Asia Pacific and you have a strategic interest in Asia Pacific, but of course also are looking to scale globally and have an interest in the US and in Europe, it probably makes most sense to apply to the Asia Pacific program. As I mentioned earlier, there is less competition because we're a newer program. We've only been running for 4 years, and you have fewer number of applicants. The US and the European program has 3 times more applicants, and therefore there will be a lot more competition, and your chances of getting through are probably going to be less. The other question I have here is, does the company have to be best in class and first in class? And the answer is no. You do not necessarily need to be global best in class. Very often we get applications that come in that address an unmet medical need or address a challenge in the market where there may already be a solution, but they do it in maybe a more cost-effective way. Or they do it, perhaps they find a solution that allows greater access to healthcare. So for example, we had the winner of 2022 was a company based out of Singapore. They invented a device which allows the surgeon to do surgery without general anesthesia. They can use it only to treat a patient only under local anesthesia. And the benefit of that is they can then provide this treatment in parts of rural Cambodia and China and Indonesia and markets that don't have access to operating theaters and general anesthesia. So those types of solutions are very welcome as well. So you do not have to be best in class or first in class. Now, if your product is a simple Me Too product, then it may be a little bit challenging. You are still very welcome to apply, but we don't see a lot of Me Too companies out there. Usually, if you are a Me Better, as I think the term is, you are more than welcome to apply. We have several Me Betters in addition to Me Too's. So no need to be first in class. I have another question here, and I'll turn to Joanne as well. If there are any of the participating attendees that would like to ask a question in person, they're welcome to do that. Otherwise, I'll continue to take the questions here off chat. So we have a question here that is, can a platform B2B startup apply? And the short answer is yes. software platforms are welcome to apply. You do not necessarily need to have a physical device or a physical product. We have a number of companies that may just have an AI solution. We have others that have online platforms to solve other problems in the healthcare system. But do bear in mind that the evaluation will be done by our corporate partners. So the companies that do get selected ultimately are companies that are potentially of interest to the likes of Olympus or Johnson & Johnson or Siemens Healthineers or some of the other companies there. They are not necessarily going to make an immediate acquisition, but their business development team will have a strategic interest in your technology or your solution. So therefore, if you are a business-to-business platform, you're welcome to apply. You may very well get invited to pitch, but you should also maybe ask yourself the question, is this a solution or an innovation that potentially could be of interest to one of the big corporates? Because ultimately that's how companies get selected to the accelerator.
Okay, for if my step in a little bit, I think the question from the audience that the platform B2C or B2B e-commerce platform that doesn't have IP, are they also eligible to apply for this, a Meta Innovator program? Thank
Correct. Yes, you are. You do. It's not mandatory that you have IP. So there are other solutions and platforms that are certainly eligible to apply. The only thing that as I said, that I would bear in mind is that the evaluation ultimately is done by more traditional medical device companies, so that would be the only thing to consider. We have another question here. We do not yet have a MVP yet, a minimally viable product. Again, that's okay. You can still apply. You do not necessarily, it's not mandatory that you have an MVP. As I said, we do have companies that apply at different stages of development. So that is absolutely fine. Let's see, do we have any additional questions?
Yes, we have one more question, Ms. Yeojin Kim from Gyroscope. I think she's here now online. Maybe Ms. Yeojin Kim, would you like to, have your mic speaker on, and would you ask questions directly to any panelist and moderator?
Okay, hi everyone. I'd like to ask that in application form, there is a pitch location options questionnaires, and just wonder like there are some answers such as like APAC pitch event 1, 2, 3, and 4. So just wondering like which one should I select for online participation or in-person participation?
Great question. So basically it doesn't really matter. This is not an important selection. We had that option back in 2019 when all of our pitch events were in person. We had a pitch event in Tokyo, we had one in Sydney, we had one in Singapore, we had one in Shanghai. So in those cases, it was important for us to understand if you were based in Korea and we had a pitch event in Japan and one in Shanghai and not one in Seoul, would you be willing to fly to Tokyo to pitch, or would you be willing to fly to Shanghai? With the pandemic, as we've heard, many of these pitch events are now online. So it doesn't really matter. The online pitch events will be based on clinical themes. So we will have one pitch event, for example, that may be on chronic disease management. One pitch event may be on next generation surgical solutions and orthopedics. One may be based on in vitro diagnostics. So we will make the assignment of the online pitch event, so you don't actually have to worry about that too much. So if you are working on a digital health solution in vitro diagnostics, for example, we may choose to invite you to pitch at the digital health online pitch event or the diagnostics pitch event. it depends on how many other applicants we have for that particular pitch event. So so don't worry too much about that.
Okay, thank you so much.
Any other questions from anyone? I'm conscious of time. It is now 11 o'clock in Korea. If there are no more, I'm just quickly going to share my screen. If there are no more questions now, but you come up with a question later this afternoon, or you come up with a question tomorrow, no problem. Send us an email. These are the contact details. This is the link to apply. We'd be happy to answer your question via email if you have any questions on the application process or about the program. So do feel free to reach out to us. I'll stop sharing the screen and we'll go back to this. And let me extend my thanks to Joanne and the MediHeroes team again for partnering with us and co-hosting this morning's webinar. And a big thank you to Kenny and to PK for joining us and for speaking so freely and positively about the MedTech Innovator Program. It was wonderful to have you part of the program last year, and we certainly look forward to keeping in touch.
Okay, great, Frederick, and also great to have you all. Also very glad that there were last year there were 5 actually finalists in the group, and I really encourage all the Korean attendees who attended today's info session to apply. As Kenny said, please do not hesitate, apply and just do it. I think that's really the message that Kenny wanted to convey with everyone. And before we close, may I suggest also take a group photo with the 2 thumbs up, and then yeah, let's close and hope to see you in Oh, great. Oh, great. Okay, shall we? All right, so let me, if you guys are here, please keep your screen on already if you already have left, and like take a screenshot with the all screen on. Okay, I will count 3, 2, 1. Okay, great, excellent. Okay, so hope to see you next year again. And if you have other questions again, please feel free to ask contact directly Frederick or Kenny or PK, or please feel free to contact MediHeroes for additional questions. Have a good rest of the day and see you next year.
Great.
Okay, bye everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Have a good day.